Do I?
Do you want to get a voicemail or something?
It's a secure, turn on my security system at home. I found out how to reset it. I'm learning. My networking problem last week, I got more to that story. Rebooting the router,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't have to do very often, but I had to. It turned out it wasn't the router, it was a PC. And I have this occur regularly, periodically. If I leave a PC, and I do, I leave it in one of my desks and it's sitting there and it runs forever. And it updates and it reboots and it starts Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer does a test for connectivity and it sits there and it gets ill eventually. And this happens repeatedly. And finally I said, okay, I'll just turn it off. I won't get Windows updates all the time, I'll just turn it off. But you hadn't run into that where your machine gets a Windows update and it starts acting up?
Oh, Windows 10 breaks itself all the time.
Yeah.
You can't stop the updates anymore. You can postpone them for 30 days or so, which gets
7 days. Mine keeps saying 7 days.
Yeah.
I think on the 7 years is a place where you can delay it for like 30 days. But
But,
it's
yeah.
going to update regardless. You can't stop them anymore. The perk is, though, is usually the bad ones that break stuff, they pull it within the 30 days, so you don't actually get it. Because if it breaks stuff, it like.
But you know, it does the update, but it's wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Until it reboots.
We had a dozen machines this morning that we come in and they're all saying there's no hard drive. It had been, but it had broken the UFI. It removed the old kernel or whatever they call it and put in another one with a different name. So when it starts up, it can't find the UFI thing it's looking for, and it wasn't intelligent enough to go, oh, here's another one that's close. So, which is probably good. So it was an easy fix. Go around, reboot, press F12, and yeah, but it's like, why? And I think it did 6 or 7 machines, and I know for certain that at least 20 did updates. Why? And these are identical machines. These are all Dell 70, 30s, 40s, or 50s.
Probably depending on, well, you keep your firmware updated, don't you?
Yeah.
But here's one. My desktop machine, when I bought it, it was Windows 8 and I upgraded it to Windows 10. But every single time I go into the Windows 10 partition, it rewrites the UFI so that it only boots to Windows. I have found a workaround for it finally, but every time I would go into the Windows machine, it would rewrite that partition so that it would only boot to Windows, and it never wanted to boot to Linux. But it was doing the same thing. And it's only that one machine. All my other machines that are dual boot, they don't have a problem with it.
Nice.
Is it running grub?
Well, yes, but Windows would overwrite the grub and put its own thing back.
So if it's doing a UFI boot, you can go into Windows and tell it where the Linux partition is,
Well, then,
and it'll.
there was, I've actually tried that with this one. What finally actually worked was somebody else apparently was having a very similar issue with this same machine, and they rewrote the Windows boot thing so that it would act like a Linux boot thing.
Yeah.
So
I usually.
I was like, okay, so if it wants to point to that particular one, it's still acting like grub, sort of. It's still letting me do boot, so I don't care.
There is a fix, just remove Windows 10.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting to that point on that machine anyway, because it's been so long. The only reason why I kept it was because it's a legitimate copy.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only reason why that it's lasted as long as it's lasted.
I have a VM that I run at work of Win 10.
Need one of those?
Oh,
You got me on the-
2000 boot disk.
Oh, nice.
Connect.
Nice.
Maybe.
Just trying to find our copy of QuickBooks today.
No.
I found a floppy disk for Windows 2000 server boot floppy. Still in the plastic.
In case it can't boot up.
Ray says he's coming.
Well, what's funny is I think I lost my 2000 disk when I did their install back in 2000. Which is kind of funny. I found a floppy. It's like,
You
oh,
want-
wait.
Stacks of discs.
Do you want Ray to bring the robots inside? Or do you just want him to explain stuff?
Whatever he wants to do.
If you need any server CDs, I've got all of them.
As long as it doesn't get too rowdy,
Yeah.
knowing Ray, it could get rowdy,
I have factory originals for,
Are you
I might even have NT4.
Don't tell me that. I miss NT4.
I know I've got 2000, 2003, 2007, or that's,
I've got what used to be MSDN, so I can get you all the way back to DOS.
yeah.
Although they've
That
made it
stuff they
less
finally released. You
Sorry?
can legally download the images for
For
the
DOS now?
stuff. Yep.
Windows 95 is public domain.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of cool.
I'll have to install it on VMware.
Somebody
That's it.
did it.
Pain.
Yeah. Somebody did
Really?
it
It's hard?
and created an
Yeah.
image.
I'll say because
Yeah.
most of the stuff won't support anything that old any longer.
You need to run a thing called Docile.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Everything else seems pretty reasonable. A friend brought me a laptop that had their family ties for Windows stuff on it, and I created them a booting CD that brought up Ubuntu, that had VirtualBox, that had their laptop images on it, so they could still run their family ties program.
That's cool.
They couldn't make any changes, but it was all working. And that was sweet. I spent some time on that.
Are
And
you
it ran
seeing-
off of a CD.
Go through a stupid amount of
Do,
hoops.
do you just want the
virtualize 2000
HDMI
server.
cable if you're not seeing it?
that's
Because
okay,
of-
I'll just tell him.
Or what was it used for that? VMware or work was it VM Workstation? Stopped supporting it at like version 6 or something. So you need that to even
Yeah.
mount it.
If you build it in VMware 5, you can import it into 6.
You know.
So,
Well, what I would say is jump hoops. Just
Yeah, well, they're up at like 14, 15 now.
Yeah.
VMware? No.
Yeah. Workstation?
Oh, I don't know about Workstation. VMware.
You mean ESXi?
Yeah. That's a 6.7.
7.8.
Yeah.
The guy that made the image for Windows 95 that you can it's an image where you can just install it. It
Mhm.
runs its own thing. But the very first thing it pops up while you're installing it, and it says, "This is Windows 95. I'm sorry." It's funny. But it's Windows 95 and it's running. It acts just like
Yeah.
Windows 95.
Yeah.
And
Full screens.
You can't
Nice.
you can't do any. If you want to play the old classic solitaire game, you're good to go.
Yeah.
But you can't really do much else with it.
There was a cheat on that on Solitaire and Minesweeper. If you pressed, let's see, when it comes up before you click on anything, for Minesweeper, type XYZZY, enter,
Oh,
enter.
yeah.
And it made 1 pixel turn colors in the corner of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
I love that one. I messed with my sister a lot on that.
XX.
XYZZY.
Yeah.
That was a God mode cheat code for Doom.
Oh, I thought it was in Zork.
That might have been there too. That one was used in quite a lot of things.
So did you get all the pieces of your computer? You assembled it?
I did, I haven't. Got all the parts. I started putting things together, and my cooler is like this tall, and I have this much space. It was like, so I'm debating whether I'm gonna just cut out a chunk of the side of the case, which is fine. There's a plastic cover above it. I haven't gotten the processor in yet. I just got all the parts last night, and then started chatting online with somebody, and it's like, oh well, and now it's time to go to sleep. But yeah, hopefully I'll get it running this week. I was gonna take it into work this morning. It's like, yeah, no, they won't appreciate that. I actually have to do something today.
Yeah.
I'm sprung tomorrow, so. I said I'm sprung tomorrow.
What you got today?
I just old dev kits I wouldn't mind getting rid of,
Oh,
and some DVDs.
I see an RJ45 and a serial.
Oh, these are pretty. We put these on ready mix trucks a decade ago and gathered dailies. They drove around, picked them up to.
Omex.
You know, they're a pick 32. The tools are free. Now this is free scale. It's a 32-bit something or other too.
So the little LCD, is this out of a handspring or a palm or something? That's what it looks like.
It just was on the dev kit. I mean, they've got demo software on there that drives it, and it's touch, I believe.
Yeah, these are touch
Yeah.
screens. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Got some nice relays on there.
And networking.
Camera's port, one or the other.
It does. It was CAN was key for the trucks.
Cool.
It's the same one.
Yeah, they're the same. I got a couple more that I didn't get rid of. The tool chains are free if you don't value your time.
Omex.
I like their stuff. They do a lot of.
They made some
microchips.
decent stuff,
Yeah.
or they make some decent stuff. It's big over in Europe. They're a big company over in Europe.
And maybe it's not them, but it's something similar to them. They were in a former Soviet state, and every time I bought from them, they would lock my credit cards. These guys are available through DigiKey now. So they won't lock your credit cards if you go through DigiKey.
In theory.
In theory.
Depends on how much you buy in.
And these are just assorted Linux images that on their views.
The privacy suite. Everybody needs the privacy suite. Oh, Tor, the Onion router.
Yeah. My Nest server, we're running silent-ish.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, it's
Can't give it away.
And you needed to reinstall.
Trying to give it away? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to
You
give it
didn't
away.
get it by him, obviously.
it rolled the wrong
There
direction.
was a little note in there that in some cases the such and such fails on a UFI install, and yeah.
I don't know if I can use this or not.
I ran
That's
them and then it booted me off,
That
and then
is
like the next day
kind of
I
funky.
couldn't
So
get
that-
back on.
that's,
The power cycle is
I don't think I ever turned that
Here's
on.
the screen. It's like, well,
It was
awesome.
one of those things that
It's
never
not something I can
came to
consistently
be.
work on. I've got way too much stuff going on. I was trying to
You got your hands on it.
do
You kind of
it on
went,
the side. I
no.
was working because I was trying to
Got
do
distracted with something else.
I'm trying to build. So one boss that has all the file shares are on
Quick
digital
stick.
external
Uh-huh.
USB drive.
Just look at them.
He's on Windows 7. He's wanting
This is kind of like
10
a.
bucks, and it's like,
What?
Yeah, we're not gonna keep doing all these little floppy external things. I'm gonna put it on something.
Yeah.
What do they call that? The Raspberry Pi that slides into the.
I don't know.
Yeah, I put the firewall on it this morning from the.
It's got an actual
Is
connector
that smooth,
connector.
smooth wall or something?
Huh. I might play with that just because
Excellent.
it's different.
Excellent.
And-
I used to use their stuff a lot. I've switched more to TI lately, but I liked Freescale at the time. Or before that.
Yep, it's still running the demo. Whatever. Left, right, select, sound.
Calendar, but.
Yeah.
Kind of
New
hard to
one just
read.
Came out a couple weeks
That's
ago.
Really?
Yeah. 2019.4 or something came out December 23rd. I think.
I'll play with it. That's kind of neat.
Good.
That might make like a kind of cool retro looking display or something.
You got toys, Leroy?
Sorta.
Now you got toys.
Yeah.
You do it. You want that one too?
Only if nobody else wants it. I mean, I'm not going to turn away.
They
I'm not
have
going to turn
cans.
away dev boards.
Okay.
I don't really. They are current
They're relatively new.
ish, current ish.
Yeah. I get one a month.
I don't know if I really need those, but
Well, so I would like go and download and burn the latest if I were actually going to install them. So there's really not for me.
yeah.
Well, then it's like, if you actually do like hacking and stuff, and you realize, oh, you want an old version for it.
Yeah.
Then you have to do some digging because it's usually hard to come up with an old vulnerable version or whatever.
So over the past couple of weeks, I sat down. Actually, this took about 2 hours to write, but I sit down and made a little game that's based on a game called Space Journey. So it's pretty simple. The idea, you're basically a guy who works for the Galactic Republic. You've come across some information to end the war, and you've got to get it for 30 days.
Got to stay alive for 30 days.
You got to stay alive for 30 days, and basically the information is given to who it needs to go to, and it's actually a lot harder than. So it's all based on a roll of dice. It was a pen and paper game originally, so it's 1d6 is the roll. So it's got some lookup tables and whatever in it, and everything just kind of happens. And there's a true random number generator in there. It's a lot harder than it should be, and that's one of the things that I want to make it a little easier, because out of like the 15 or 20 games I played, I think I've won once. So that's pretty hard.
That's pretty hard. Add a re-roll function.
The original game actually gave you the ability to modify it after the roll, and I was like, that's not really fair, is it? So I took that feature out, but now I'm kind of
Now
seeing
you're
that
second guessing that.
that might have been a good feature.
Nothing happened today.
Nothing happened today. That is actually a good thing, because when stuff happens, it's
Usually bad.
usually bad. Especially if you get hit by the trap of the supernova. If the supernova happens, you're pretty much SOL.
Did you ever play?
3 6s in a row.
Bard's Tale?
Do what?
The original Bard's Tale.
It's been years, yeah.
It took me 56 groups, I think, before somebody lived long enough to get to level 2
Yeah.
out of the group.
Yeah, that. I don't even think I ever got that far.
Oh yeah,
Ever.
once you get somebody to level 2, it gets real easy. Especially like the pyromancer or sorcerer, 'cause they can like nuke the whole room.
I'm not even. Yeah, I remember playing it for maybe 10 minutes, going, nope.
Okay, well, it was like, cause you'd roll a group, right, and then you hit you got to get 1,000 EXP and live long enough to get to the guild hall to level up. So anytime you hit a spellcaster, they nuke your whole party dead. Howdy, sir.
You're up, Ray.
He's a free junk? No?
Ray's
You
trying
didn't say
to,
anything?
I sort of, I mean, this is your thing. I mean,
Oh, yeah, okay. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. Anybody want a laser? Anybody want a laser? Anybody want a...
Yeah.
Anybody want a robot?
Well, duh.
Ray, that is such a silly question.
So what we did was Asheville University. Because I'm loud. Sorry. Asheville University. I've been working with them for 2 years now, and they're doing some marketing, manuals, sales, inventory. They're a college of business, so they took this robot design, and you know how I was trying to put it onto the website, selling the prices. So they've taken it over, and they have 5 or 6 high schools now that are buying 30 robots at a time every semester.
Sweet.
Sweet, right? So
You
what
can
I
produce 24.
we make only 24. So what I did was I set them up with one laser machine. Then they built a makerspace because the provost, the deans, all came in like, oh, this is cool, and they're seeing a laser machine. They're like, we need a laser machine for this makerspace. So they bought a laser machine for their makerspace, and everybody, just like what normally happens with a makerspace, everybody sees the 3D printer and they're like, this takes freaking forever. But I can make something on the laser pretty fast. My laser got a bunch of attention, and people are using it constantly, and they barely ever use the 3D printers. So they moved my laser, the second laser, into a bigger space, and now they want a third one, so which is good. They've been growing this. Their college is actually a college of business, so they're learning about supply chain management, keeping inventory, production times, production schedules, all that fun stuff. So they came down yesterday, and they're saying, well, what would we have to plan for a year of sales? If we're expecting to sell 300 robots. I was like, well, you should have inventory for 400 if you're going to have, expect 300 sales. But you don't do just-in-time purchasing, especially if these are all common parts. So you should, do purchases that are appropriate for, getting the right price break. And so I was telling them, like, you can buy nuts and bolts and screws from Menards, or you can buy them from Lowe's, or you can buy them from another USA vendor, eBay, or you can go straight to China, because you can buy like these stainless steel screws, and they're solid stainless steel. They're not like zinc coated or something, or nickel plated or whatever. You go to China and buy them in bulk. So if I were to buy them from eBay at a good price, I could probably buy 200 of a certain screw for $10. I buy it from China, I can get 2,000 for $9. So we're doing inventory yesterday with all these different parts, and they're like, okay, these switches that belong down here, the bumper switches. We've got 2,300 of them. The M4 screws, we've got 16,000, and I'm serious. And
He's serious.
M4 by 12, M4 by 8, M4 by 16, M4 by 20, 25, 30, M3 by 5, M3 by 6, M1.8 by 5, M1.8 by 6, M1.8 by 10, M1.8 by 5. Different brass standoffs, black nylon standoffs. It just, the counts were in 9,000, 5,000, 15,000, 23,000. They're like, oh my God, Ray, why do you buy so many? Well, if you buy from eBay, the price is like 35 cents each for a brass standoff.
Mhm.
If you buy them from China, they're 0.35 cents, not $0.35, 0.35 cents, which is
3 for a penny. That's
you get
amazing.
like 3 for a penny. It's crazy. You're getting different. It depends on what size they are and stuff. You get different screws, and it's purchasing in orders of magnitude. It's the economy of scale,
Mhm.
and these guys are just blown away. So like, okay, so they applied for a grant, and the grant is based on the STEAM program for the high schools. So their approach was, we're not doing this to make a profit, but we are going to be tracking all this stuff. We do have, I think they said they're going to have 2 dedicated employees that actually are going to be paid, which are actually being paid by the grant, not by a profit margin.
Mhm.
So they are building robots that are intended for 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th, and on. 2nd grade! I'm like, are you crazy? So they're using the Scratch block programming, getting kids into doing this stuff. So they took the Walrus robot and chopped it down. They cut out everything but like 2 solder points. They took out the Bluetooth, made that optional. They took out the light sensing, made that optional. Definitely are using the bumper switches. To the pre-soldering stuff for the students, USB connection, making sure everybody understands the drivers that are needed. And they're saying, well, they sell it to the schools for 2nd, 3rd grade. They can do upgrades for the 4th grade. They get a new robot for 5th grade, and they're creating students with this growth pattern. Because the robots are pretty resilient and made out of styrene, and they're not using, like, this is what we started off thinking, hey, this is going to be the itty bitty easy robot. They're using the Walrus. The Walrus, it's just because of its shape, it's why it's called the Walrus. But they've simplified it so much, and they're getting it down to the selling it with profit margin. They're selling it at $50. Which is a good entry-level robot. The only real competitor at that level is Redbot, and then you've got some acrylic-made Chinese junk. And the problem with the acrylic is just it's brittle, and for whatever reason, the Chinese haven't realized they need to buy polystyrene. So I'm happy that they haven't figured that out yet.
I thought the
So-
red bot was like at $99.
It is like $99 to $110,
Yeah.
and a student discount gets them down to $91. But then they have an option to buy a toolbox with some tools and some other stuff. So this school, Ashland, is wanting to work with the local high schools and teach them how to use the stuff. Because they're going out and really selling it. They came over yesterday and they did inventory, and so we cleaned up a big part of my
Really cleaned up a
robot
big
mess.
part of it.
Cleaned up a big part of my robot mess, and we pushed all the shelves together so that it's all closed up. Inventory is counted. They're buying it all. They are buying, if you guys remember, all of my robot inventory that's at Rabbit Laser. I still have all my robotic stuff at home. So I have quite a reasonable robot lab at home. And while we were cleaning up, I was like, okay, well, this is robots that we tried to build during a focus group last year, and there were like 15 students that came in. Some students got their robots done, other students didn't, and there were some that were like halfway built. So I invited Leroy over today to say, hey, which of these robots are really, what's missing parts? So
Almost all of them.
all of them were missing parts, and we threw them together. So here's a cockroach with an Uno. Here's a round rover, half droid, bitty rover, compact rover, and another compact rover, and 3 more robots. Free. Anybody wants them? You can have them. Any donations would be appreciated to help pay for the controllers, because I didn't want them to get destroyed or have to, tear them all back apart. And they are slightly older models. They weren't fully put together, so that means you'll probably have to take them apart,
And
wire it, put it back together,
And they're all screwed together, so have fun.
Yeah, they're all screwed together. So lots of fun there. The reason that one bobbles back and forth is because when they put it together, they put the ball on the wrong side. So one of these, I think, is supposed to be on the bottom, maybe the other one's supposed to be on the bottom too. And that's what causes that 3/8 of an inch, or 3 millimeters misalignment. So they didn't follow the instructions. Where, like, see how this one, it's mounted on the bottom of the plate compared to that one, it's mounted on the top of the plate. Yeah.
That was all part of learning what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, whether to cut that hole all the way through, which actually lets them do it, or not.
So are you stopping production? Or
I am going back to what I enjoy more, which is design and development. So if they have a laser, they actually have 2 lasers plus another one in their makerspace. Well, they're buying a 3rd laser. They're going to be doing their own manufacturing. They're going to write manuals. They're going to write how-tos. They have people that are writing more example code. And we've already written some example code. They're going to feedback like, hey, Ray, we want something that's a little bit harder or not quite Bitty Rover compared to the Walrus. They stripped that Walrus down. They're like, they don't even put a prototyping board on it. I'm like, you only save 24 cents. I'm like, well, we don't want to put the light sensors. Light sensors and the resistors. Ooh, 5 cents. So, but it's just the complexity level that they don't want to do it. So, yeah.
I don't know whether to say I'm sorry or congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's a good thing.
You wouldn't believe all the inventory that I went and we checked out and everything yesterday. We're talking all the nuts and bolts and screws, thousands and thousands of each size. Unos, Megas, shields, Fundamoto shields, all kinds, the motors, the DC connectors, servos, switches, just thousands of pieces.
What's $8?
And
$8?
or whatever you're donating, I appreciate it. Take what I can, I guess. Damn, you're killing me. But so it's a good thing. I wanted to have the space at work and have my stuff, my development stuff at home. I don't want to be doing mass production. I don't have the time to turn the robot stuff into a full-blown business. But they are ready to keep the whole rabbit robots and, you know, manage, built, whatever, by Eagle Consulting, which is their kind of business. And I get royalty for every robot that's made.
Well, sweet. There you go.
Cool.
That's even better deal.
So this one is an unbuilt kit. Motor switch. It's the non-standard stuff. You still have to add on a Fundimoto board and an Uno, and that'll be a whole walrus.
Basically, what we found was a bunch of just parts. Did you
Yeah.
bring any of the extra plastic?
I did not.
Okay. So there was a box of extra plastic too.
Like this is a walrus kit, which does not include the 2 standoffs. So here's 2 standoffs, all the screws and stuff that would normally go with the kit. I mean, these are built, but so this is enough to get it all assembled. I also have like 10 pre-cut sets, but they're like one version old or something stupid like that. So I don't want to throw them out. But it actually, there is quite a lot of value of me stripping these for parts, because there's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's $15 worth of purchase. Well, 15, $17 or $18 worth of just purchased electronics on there.
Got this upside down. That should be over.
Yeah. See?
Doesn't fit.
That's the stuff you gotta deal with.
Oh,
They just said that.
There's unless Ray has gotten rid of it, there's
I've got
extra.
it all.
There's extra antenna masts and stuff.
Yeah. So like that one's got a mask. That one's got well, that doesn't fit.
It would if it was right. If it was flipped over.
If anybody wants to, like, hey, yeah, I'd like to have an extra bumper or whatever, tell me or come get it or
Because it's all there.
come laser it.
It's all there.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff. So sweet. So, yeah, all this stuff is here. This one, it looks like a mess.
It's all there.
It looks like a mess,
Yeah.
but it's all here. I went through it and made sure that I threw in stuff that I thought, hey, maybe this is missing, maybe that's missing. Went through it, made sure it's all there. It's like, yes.
What, one of these?
It's a round.
This is a round rover. It's one of those. Yeah. So, that's been my joy of the week. I just hit 9,000 steps. Let's see, besides that, I went to a car auction this week.
I said that I was going to let everybody take first pick, and I would take pick. But I actually do not have a round rover or a round droid, or one of the new Biddy rovers. I actually have one of the old,
The original stuff. Yeah.
one of the original Biddy rovers.
One thing, you know, if you guys are taking these and you're already like committed to it, yes, you love it. I don't like to give away stuff and
I will.
you know, somebody just takes it and sits it on a shelf. I really want to see everybody. Thank you. I want to see everybody do something with it.
You know, Leroy does stuff.
Yeah, make them work, make them run, bring them back when they're doing stuff.
You know,
Oh,
Leroy
you're
does
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
It takes him a while, but he does stuff.
What's missing from the cockroach?
It's built, but it looks.
Adreno board.
Yes.
It is built. I think they did the wrong positions
It's
And
backwards.
this one,
They're upside down.
I don't know if they're upside down or what they did. I gotta find out why does it look like this.
Well, I get back apart and grab your prints and-
Yeah, the instructions are on the website. Granted, they got the whiskers to work right. I was kind of impressed with that.
There's
and
even
look at the
example
inside.
code that somebody
Yeah.
has helped write.
And I just took the battery out because it was kind of goofy in the way. But this just sits right down in here. And when we designed
I feel
it
like I've done
to,
nothing but come and get swag today.
Looks good.
we designed to fit in there pretty snugly. That way, while this thing is going, it just gonna vibrates on the ground. It's gonna hop. Oh, there's no wheels, so it vibrates so much. I think it works pretty decently on Berber, on tile. It doesn't do so good on thick carpet, but it's like a stupid little cockroach. I always call it a cockroach. But, and I threw in this is the original one that was supposed to go with it. It's an antenna mast, and that's just if you wanted to put a Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whatever up here. What we found is that if you use a Fundamoto board or some kind of a prototyping board space, it's just as easy to put the Bluetooth right down here. There's no interference from the motors. Earlier on during my designs, I thought that the motors were going to create some kind of electrical field interference with the Bluetooth. It just doesn't happen.
It was wasn't it the gyroscope that you?
Yeah, the gyroscope we were wanting to put up there, but these antennas, yeah, they sit there and like, and it's just whipping around. It would just freak out the gyroscope so bad. It's funny. This
I feel special.
has been my fun. So we got a cockroach, a round rover, and
Don't let them go to waste, Rafe.
a
They've got a good home at my place, but I'm broke now.
and a compact rover.
If nobody else wants to take them, they've got a good home.
The compact rover is actually more difficult to put together because everything is
Yeah, the
in
compact.
there. You have to make sure it's all wired right as you tighten down the screws,
Yeah.
because once the screws are
That'll
tightened,
keep the wires from coming off.
you would need tweezers to get down into putting the wires in the right spot. It was designed to be a pain in the ass. And they're not wired, so you're gonna have to take it back apart. If you look down in there, you can see the L298N motor controller board.
It's a very, very tight fit.
Yeah, it is a super tight fit. We even, we designed how much space was available for the battery pack.
And there's just enough.
Just barely fits. And if you look down there, you can see we had to cut off the shafts, the inside shaft on the motors, in order to get the heat sink. But this is before I started playing around with the Fundamoto 298P shield. The 298P shield simplifies the build because the motor driver, Bluetooth, servo, everything sits on top up here. It's pretty easy to work with, and it doesn't have any bigger footprint than the Uno. So, yeah, that's all fun stuff. I didn't mean to walk in and take over. It's been
Thank you very much. Yep. And congratulations.
Any answers?
No.
You've got your own
I'm full of
project.
electronics already.
Oh, Jeremy might want one.
Yep.
Hi, Jeremy.
You missed it.
Yeah, you missed it.
It's Christmas. We were giving away robots. You want one?
Do you want a robot, Jeremy?
Not at the moment.
There's a round rover left, a compact rover, and a the cockroach. You already took the cockroach. And a walrus.
This is the walrus. You got the cockroach over there.
Oh yeah,
That's what I was gonna
there
say.
you go.
If he doesn't want anything, I'll take the rest of them. If
I-
nobody wants them.
I'll take it. I'll take all of it. I'll take it all.
You made out tonight.
Ray knows that he can always get rid of robots to my house. They've always got to get on.
Hopefully you'll share with somebody else.
I will.
There's
Actually, that's probably not a bad idea. Why don't we put them somewhere, like if one of those kids shows up again that wants one? Because I know, I talk to him every now and then, and he's still working with it. He just doesn't show up to the meetings too much anymore. Too many other things going on.
I don't get to show up to all the meetings either. I wish I could.
That's not a half bad idea. We'll put some of them up just to give them to somebody else who wants them. It might not be a half good idea either, but it's not a half bad idea.
So, how many pounds of screws do you no longer have there? Best guess.
I know that like the rack that has all the screws, it doesn't have wheels, and I tried to move it, and I bent the back brace on it, thinking, hey, I'm just gonna kind of push it, scoot it, and I bent over, so it's leaning like this, and I was like, it scared the crap out of me because I thought it was just all gonna collapse. But yeah, they're all in bags. I mean, you pick up a bag of screws, and it's they're heavy. What, 6,000 or 7,000 M4 by 16 screws. There's M3 lock nuts, M4 lock nuts, M3 nuts, M4 nuts, that whole deal. And they knew when they came by, they were like, well, they could buy the minimum number of screws to build, and their target was like 700 robots. Okay, so if you're gonna buy that many screws, the minimum number, why not just go straight to China and buy more?
Yeah.
Well,
That's $1,000 worth of screws, or you can buy $1,000 worth of screws and have 7,000 robots worth of stuff.
right. You have thousands of extras and stuff. And I told them, out of all the stuff that I've got, you want to build 700 robots, you're gonna probably have to still buy a bunch of LCDs with the ITC backpacks. You're probably gonna have to buy some more Bluetooth. You're gonna have to buy a little bit of this to patch the missing components to fill it in. And then you're still gonna have 30% of the total inventory is just left over because those parts weren't designed into a project yet. These were some of my development parts, or I thought I was going to use a version 4 breakout board. I went to a version 5, and I was like, okay, well, I'm actually better off with a version 4. And then I found the Fundamental board, and I was like, I don't need the version 4 or the version 5. So I ended up with a lot of extra of these breakout boards. The DC power supply, it's not power supply, it's a voltage regulator. Don't use them at all.
Oh, really?
Don't use them at all.
Nobody's ever hooked them up.
No.
They've never been hooked up.
They'll screw them in place. Nobody ever uses them. And the whole point behind it is that if you have like 6 18650 batteries, which is going to be a crap load of voltage, you can limit it all down to 6 volts, run everything at 6 volts, or if we want to have a competition, right before the competition, I'm checking the output going to the motor controller. That way I know I'm running 6 volts, he's running 6 volts, he's running 6 volts, or we all establish, hey, we're going to run at 9. That way, the real competition is behind the code, not the voltage. And who's got how much battery power left. I would rather the competition be all about the code that's there.
Very cool.
Sure, what you got, Steve? Blows mind.
I got nothing now.
Oh, yeah, he hadn't seen the, that, oh, that.
A
That's why I say I-
PCMCIA rechargeable Bluetooth mouse.
But he's gonna give you that look. Yeah.
It
Yes, that
stores
works.
in the PCMCIA slot,
Oh.
recharges when it's
And your laptop,
powered up, but you're not using it.
and your laptop needs Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Does just
So the
The
intersection
thing
of
down
time
there,
where
right?
that was a viable product, is pretty limited.
Pretty slim. And I'm like, wait a minute. Bluetooth and PCMCIA.
Your two circles, there was a
They interlock
small
about
point.
there.
like a single point where that happened.
We're supposed to survive this mind-bending thing. This is crazy.
This is one of those things that needs to go to the museum, the computer museum, because nobody's
never seen
ever
one.
seen one.
I hadn't
I
even
certainly
heard of
never,
such a thing.
yeah, never seen, heard of such.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
It's a slick idea though, for
I mean-
especially a laptop to have a,
Yeah.
mouse.
I think my
and-
ThinkPad still has like slots for fit into
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, but does it have
Well-
Bluetooth and PCMCIA?
And one of the interesting things
That's kind of the issue. I don't think it has Bluetooth.
I think it
So I
was
don't think it would
HP that
work.
switched away from PCMCIA first. They
Yeah.
had that weird double length slot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PCMCIA too.
Whatever. Yeah, PCMCIA. It actually was shaped more like a handle.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full rectangle. It had a little bit of a dip in it.
HP did something weird for a while too, where you could pull something out of your laptop and shove it into your desktop. It was some sort of memory or something.
Yeah. Well, no, they took PCMCIA slot, or like a double slotted card.
Maybe that's what it was, but you pulled it out of your laptop and you shoved it into your desktop.
Yeah.
There's a little
Did you-
slot on your desktop where you
I don't know
can
what
use
they
it.
called that dual layer thing, but I remember some of the HPs had.
Yeah, well, I snagged that too. That's
So
just
the
more snag.
PCMCIA really is just they're getting the power off of it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, there was no
Okay,
communications
no,
to
mine
it.
doesn't have Bluetooth.
Yeah, there was.
It's still
So it's just a storage location, charging port,
There was hard drives.
and then you're using the
But
Bluetooth for the actual communication.
that's
I have a
related.
PCMCIA SCSI card if you ever need it.
That's related to an IDE connector.
Yeah.
So there were dozens of
Yeah, but
people
I have to
that
find one
made-
for myself.
IDE, I have a whole bunch
I don't
of
have Bluetooth.
IDE to
They sell them in USB
PCMCIA
stick
adapters
box.
because
Yeah.
that was the first way that we were making
SSDs.
low cost solid state drives
Yep.
for industrial automation.
Yep. So this is
Card swap?
very closely related to IDE.
Yes.
No, you didn't have to be a card slot. It like you're talking ISA or PCI.
No, there was a specific storage thing called card slot that was very close to that, but they were usually shorter.
Yes, there's those two.
I
The ones that we were doing, it actually mounted in a 2.5-inch hard drive space,
Mhm.
and you would take the IDE to it, and then you'd plug in a PCMCIA card
See-
or an SD card.
CF cards
A,
were also
compact
related
flash
to,
cards.
to
Yeah.
IDE.
Yeah. There are a couple different ones.
Yeah, the
I
compact
had
flash
a
drives, you
a
get hard
CF
drives.
hard drive. It was a little tiny 6 gig hard drive. It was awesome. It was an actual hard drive.
Yeah, I still have one in a, it's a high availability failover router, and it's got Red Hat on it. Bright yellow thing, I don't remember what it is. If anybody wants it, welcome to it. It's a short 1U rack mount thing. You want a 1U rack mount thing with 4 gigabit Ethernet ports? Bright yellow.
Screws are loose.
Any 3D printer people in here?
I got one.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I'd let you guys know as well. So the Hive is looking to possibly sell a large format 3D printer. Yeah, the Gigabot. Just because, like, I mean, at this point, it's like, as badass as that thing is, we just don't print things that large that often. So I can show you what this looks like if anyone's interested. I think
They finally giving it
it's
to 'em.
yay big.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Holy cow!
Did the company actually?
I don't know where I would
finally-
base
Something like that.
What?
The company finally let them
Yeah,
have it?
there's my test setup at the house.
It went dark.
Oh,
Twice.
Remember I brought one
Yeah.
of those things in
Yeah.
here the other day. There's about 30 of them sitting there.
That's pretty awesome.
yeah, but I mean, at this point, it looks like we're just gonna divest ourselves of this thing because as cool as it is, it's like it gets started up like once in a blue moon, and because I mean, like it seems like most people's projects like don't need continuous prints of that magnitude.
Takes 2 weeks to do.
And it's not an easy thing to run either. So
What are they?
If anyone's
How much?
interested in this thing?
Yeah. What are they asking for?
I don't think there's a price set for it just yet. Like I said, it's nothing set in stone just yet. Only the talks have kind of started on that, on like who the potential buyers might be.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of surprised, because from what I understood, the company technically still owned that somewhere. And most of the work that's been done on it, and all the board replacement's been done by the Hive, but somebody was letting them use that, not.
I think it's under Hive ownership at this point.
That's why I was curious, because a couple years
Yeah.
ago it came up that they were kind of wanting it back. And people were kind of nitpicky because of how many hours people had put in it.
To get it fixed and get it running and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they had put a lot of work in. Well, it's got like it's on its 5th controller
Yeah.
board, and
It looks
Because
it
they
looks
fried
way
it.
too big for
the
anything I would do.
Controller went out on it like 3 times.
unless the price was really cheap.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, from what I remember, it was like $15,000.
Yeah, well,
that's-
the price would
not
have
a
to be
cheap
really
finish.
cheap.
Yeah.
that is not gonna be.
That's why I'm surprised they're trying to sell it. If
I
the
mean-
company, unless they've made some kind of deal with them.
Yeah, like
'Cause I know some people put some serious upgrades in that.
yeah,
over
I
the
mean
years.
it's been a while, pretty much. I mean it's not.
Well, it's been down there since I've been messing with it, and I saw I know Bill Steele has put a ridiculous amount of time in it, and mods, and then so did 2 or 3 other guys. Cause the tracks and all that have been redone, the wire harness has all been, with the layout track was all redone, just quit slicing wires and shortening boards, and
Yeah.
I know it's on like his 4th or 5th power supply. And I don't know how many control boards they've fried over the years.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess if anyone might be interested, I guess something maybe to let them know.
They print pretty good sized stuff though. The only thing
What
I've
is
ever-
that, like 30 inches cubed?
Almost
28?
36 or 40.
Yeah,
something
something like that.
Cube, yeah.
Forget the exact
The
dimensions of it.
biggest thing I've seen printed is dude did a fish about that big, like
Like a Billy Bass.
Yeah,
No,
I was gonna say, did it start singing when somebody
they
walked
did
by?
a Japanese carp
Oh, cool.
with all the scales and everything. But I mean, the amount of work to clean that, I looked at that and I was like, you guys are nuts. Because there was like 5 support rods for each scale and everything. I was like, it looked like a spiny mess. I was like, well, if that was worth printing or not.
Yeah, that is kind of part of it. It's not the easiest machine to run.
Well, there are some things you can't make unless you've got a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And even if you do have to do a extravagant amount of cleanup, you just can't do it any other way.
Yeah.
So, and then when you have a large one, I guess it has some value, but just depends on if you can find those customers on a regular basis, or
Yeah.
if you really got that much extra money. And I do not have that kind of extra money.
I doubt that's all, but I don't know.
You might soon.
Probably, but not now.
You don't need it, Ray.
I didn't need it. If you don't need it, it's never worth that kind of extra money.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably
Star
not going to be
Wars
super cheap because, like,
Yeah.
intend to get at least some of that back and put it into, I guess,
Something
less.
that you guys might use.
Admittedly less spectacular, but probably more practical tools.
More reliable.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things you kind of don't want to let go of, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things.
Well,
It's, you kind of have to admit to practicality on that one.
There's a couple guys wanting to get the liquid ones. That'd be part of what they're trying to push. Like, well, hey, if we get rid of this, we can get.
I'd
two
get
of
a,
the laser
what do they call it?
resin printers.
Formlabs.
Those are,
Yeah.
UV ones.
Formlabs 3.
Actually, a
L.
lot of the, let's see, there's also a bunch of regular size 3D printers that are more likely to sell because, like, kind of trimming off like the ones that are not really being used, as well as like various states of not working, consolidating to the ones that are working and are used the most, and like probably going to put something else in that space.
Anybody need any UPS batteries?
Oh, yeah.
You got a few, don't you?
I still have probably 70 of them left. Yeah, anybody wants any. Free to a good home.
Well, drop them off. I'll take whatever ones you got.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Done. Oh.
I was gonna say.
They won't even
Did you-
charge you
did
to
you
drop them
know
off.
the story on them? They're
Yeah, you know. Sorry.
okay. Yeah.
They had to be pulled out and changed because of scheduling.
Yep.
But
They're,
they're
they're
probably
more
still
than
really good.
3 years old, but they've only got 20 minutes of use on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, they just have been charged the whole time. Yeah.
Yep.
I get it. I'm gonna build a 1,000-volt battery.
Yeah.
Wire them all together.
That doesn't surprise us.
You're going into the ion plasma cannon.
If you put a PCMCIA connector on it, then we
Oh,
can-
Then you
then
got
you
Bluetooth
can charge a
network.
Bluetooth mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forever.
Now I
Forever.
only need probably one of those. I can create a laser cannon. Yeah. One battery, 12 volt.
Yeah.
Get me a
9
power
amps.
inverter. Yeah, it would be.
About 100 watts.
Okay. Give me a power inverter. I only have to shoot the laser a couple pulses in it. And get it. A little bit of a.
If you draw 100 watts continuous off of it,
Yeah,
and you fire
I'm
a
done.
pulse. that
Here
might
comes
stay.
Mark.
Oh.
Oh,
Mark's
there he is.
taken some of them already.
How you doing? So I don't think I've really met Mark.
That's
Howdy, Mark.
That's Mark. How are you?
That's Mark. That's Ray.
That's Ray.
Ray, yeah, I know Ray. He's been here a few times. How you doing?
Good.
Hope everybody's
So are
having-
you a programming guy, a robot guy, or what?
A little bit of all
Wow.
those.
Do you know what Arduino is?
Yeah, I think there's been a few of them around, yeah.
Ah, he needs a robot. You guys know that, right?
My nephew could use one, yeah.
We have robots today.
Nice. Yeah, he'd
so-
appreciate it if I get him
Okay,
started.
so I guess to fill the story, it was purchased in 2015. So, yep, for $2K.
How are you?
I'm well, yourself?
Doing fine.
Now for sale for
Doing fine.
$250.
You having a good New Year so far?
So far, so good. Absolutely. It's been so warm, we haven't gotten to go tubing. But,
Oh, yeah, it's gonna get even warmer.
I know, it's
Saturday.
70.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Astounded me what they got out of the donated
Yeah, but
3D printer.
don't mention it too loud because global warming is a bad
Year
thing.
one to use.
I kind of like it. I
I
kinda
kind of like it.
The big
Except in the
commercial one
summer.
was
See
you
predictions
follow
for what
walls.
happens to humanity if we have global
They
cooling.
ended up getting
It's
like
bad.
40,000
It's bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody
I
donated
like
a
it just
real
right.
commercial
I like
We've,
everything just right.
early on.
all
and
the
it just
time.
sat there for like
Was
40
it a
years.
We
FDM
have,
or SLA or?
Like,
Powder
So
bean.
every time
Yeah.
it warms up, it gets
Yeah.
warm. We seem to
Okay.
be productive as
Nobody
humans,
ever
and when
has
it
to
gets
do
cold,
it
we
work?
seem to
Put
be
it up on eBay.
very
Somebody
slackers.
like, yoink.
Yep, stay nice.
as a human race. It seems to
And
happen.
everybody was just kind of like,
So
"Huh?"
it's not necessarily bad.
Early sold? Okay.
So, here's an interesting. Let's see if I can drag it over there. So you got a CF card going into a PCMCIA adapter with an SD card going into the CF card.
Nice.
An adapter for an adapter for an adapter.
And then you can probably use like a mini SD one where the
Micro SD going into the
goes
SD.
A micro SD going into the SD card. Yeah.
Into the CF. I've seen that crazy stuff before.
That sounds like the frog that ate the fly that
No
sits
lie.
on the log and we don't know
That's
why.
a good answer. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Well, it's because they came out with so many different.
I have some of those
Crazy widgets.
PCM CIA to RS-232 cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Everybody
I don't
trying
think
to-
I have anything to put them in anymore, but I haven't
Nobody wanting to
thrown
pay
them
each
away
other's
yet.
royalties. Let's make our own socket.
I've seen plenty of the CF cards to
I still have those.
whatever because they're basically related to each other. It was easy to do.
I've never had any of them, but I have things that'll take them. Guess I haven't needed them.
And there's that funky thing, so you could turn it into a USB deal.
Yep.
I've still got a matched pair of SCSI PCMCIA adapters. Anybody has any interest at all?
You know, we should have a
Ancient History Day.
no, we should have a garage sale. Bring all the crap that you're wanting to get rid of. I would be happy to donate a few boxes. You guys do a little swap meet.
If you're going for history and crap you don't need anymore, I have most of the Infocom games for CPM.
Oh, you made me smile for a half a second and then
Original
frown.
I have everything they did up until Wishbringer, and all of it in CPM. That was my first programming job. And it wasn't programming, it was just verifying that their stuff actually worked and had some continuity to the story. Okay, Cruz.
Not going fast.
I could toss in a CPM computer with that.
They got some new stuff on graphene,
Need it.
what the products that are coming out. Graphene wheelchair, of course, which is something you'd expect, lightweight, you know, very, very much strength. Jackets with graphene. It sounds like they're lining the inner
It's,
liner of the jacket with
bit
graphene
microcontroller.
because it's a good heat conductor. And
Is
they're
it just
doing
a,
something similar to
prototyping
making
development area?
graphene
Yeah.
paint. And it's
Like
energy
crafting.
saver. It's also very strong.
I put
You
those
paint the wall
data
and it
acquisition
conducts
units on
heat.
ready-mix
It's a
trucks
good
and
thermal
gathered data.
conductor. So I was thinking like, yeah, that's weird.
But that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know that it would, I mean, if you painted the walls in a room, it wouldn't
I'm
change
making out like
the-
a bandit today.
the
You
heat
actually took this
transfer.
from him?
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Tends
It's
to
just
transfer
neat.
it.
I can't believe you actually took this from him. I didn't know he was giving it away. I thought he was just showing it off.
Supposedly,
Well, do you want it?
A
Yeah, I
new,
do.
a new thing.
Okay. I don't need it.
Increase
To work? Yeah, I
the
do want it.
concrete,
'Cause I know I've got
double
stuff to
strength of
work with
concrete,
it. Believe it or not.
Well, so do
and
I
also
think.
prophylactics. Increases strength of
That's what I was
latex.
kind of looking at. To
And
see what
also
computer game it was.
fiberglass, double strength of fiberglass and that sort of stuff by blending it. It's blending it with the fiberglass itself.
I've got it.
Also, filter
It's kind of a
drinking
standard
water.
driver or Bluetooth driver. Right?
The paint.
Yeah.
Also, putting it in clothing.
Me.
They got a
If you
dress
look at the
that
date,
shows the date.
2006.
The time flashes when you breathe. It's flexible, so you can
Yeah.
put it into the material, and also conductive.
Yeah. What are the approval dates or
What else they
whatever?
got?
Yeah, right. That's yeah.
Connect. I see.
Yeah, they got some futures, but it looks like they're increasing the strength of concrete and fiberglass materials and things like that with a blend.
A whole new era of concrete folks.
Yeah.
Steve can use graphene on his houseboat.
Yeah.
Are you
Make it
still on?
slippery.
Are you still on track with that?
I've started collecting stuff for it, but that just means I gotta get rid of some other stuff.
Where are you going to build it? On site there?
So my mom owns property in Lawrenceburg.
Okay.
And it's relatively close to the river.
Okay.
So there.
Okay. Does she have a big backyard, or how is that?
No.
Is it vacant?
It's a separate piece of property.
Okay. Okay.
I figure if I can move this thing with a tractor easily enough, I can, so like at 2 o'clock in the morning, get it to the river, and hopefully nobody will notice that I've got to cross 2 roads.
Automatic eject.
That mouse was called a Mogo mouse, MOGO mouse,
Okay.
and it was made by another company, but HP licensed it.
Yeah. Okay.
It was for the Mogo laptop, but I
The
can't find out
recollection
what
of
I can't find out what a Mogo laptop is. So. Or I haven't seen a Mogo laptop yet.
I got a new one for you, which nobody's brought here. You guys know how we go? Okay, I don't mean to interrupt. Well, I do. But I mean,
Go.
you know how when you go to a hotel and they just tell you, go ahead and just log into the free Wi-Fi. And so it looks like an open Wi-Fi, but the first place it takes you to is this one portal web page.
Yeah.
And then you put in your room number or whatever. So you get free Wi-Fi at a certain data rate, and if you pay $5, you get it unlimited or whatever. You set up different speeds, and it is called a guest something R3. And I was in Texas recently, and a guy gave me one, and so I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm gonna add that into my Wi-Fi thing, so that I don't have to tell anybody what my passwords are, my guest passwords or anything. They just have to go in there, and then when it comes up to the one first default screen, so the router is actually catching it, and it prevents anybody from getting into my network, as well as allowing them to have that easy access screen. So it's kind of cool.
Is that a Dell R310?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I think it's called.
I did some work for Wyndham Hill, and
It's a guest.
Wyndham Hotels.
Yeah.
Wyndham Hill's a whole different thing.
I can't remember. It's a guest something.
Like a portal.
Three.
So you type in a password and make some other choices.
Well, you can give them. You can set up like here's different.
Credentials or something.
Yeah, it's called an Internet Hotspot Gateway. GIS R3 is the one that I've got, and it's pretty neat. You do up to 50 guests, to log in at one time. Depending on what their password is, they can get different. I can set up different speeds of access, so to restrict their data rates. I can also say that depending on what password they're using, they're allowed to go to, like, if they don't pay for access at all,
Different
they can
access.
just get into the library. I mean, so they can look for books and whatever is at that default domain. Or because they're at my website or they're at my business, I can restrict them to only going through my website. They can look at Google, but they can't go anywhere. Yep. So this thing's pretty neat. I don't know if that's the exact same one.
Is this a moneymaker? Is that the idea?
You can actually put it to where they have to pay $5 in order to increase their data speeds.
What would you do with it? What would be the advantage of using this?
Well, part
You
of the
got a
reason is that
firewall.
I don't want people, like, if I give them a guest account, that takes them straight to the internet. But then they can come back after hours and sit there and download as fast as they want. I wanted to have some data rate restrictions, time restrictions. Their password expires every day at a certain time, so new passwords have to come in for the next couple days.
So
my
if they
neighbor
came,
comes over and says, "My son is staying up all night on your guest network. Can you do something about this?"
Yeah.
So now the network shuts off at what, 11 o'clock on Friday over the weekend and 10 o'clock during the week, which drives my kids nuts. So then you have to put in exceptions for different devices. Oh, this device can always use it, or my wife would.
I had my kids all on a managed switch that I could limit bandwidth, and it just progressively got slower and slower. And finally it increments.
That's actually the one that I
That's
got.
good.
Cron jobs are a wonderful
Mine's a
thing.
art.
Well, I
I do
have
have
an
an art story.
extremely sophisticated problem.
So
But
it's
when I
the
take
same
this-
thing.
Chromebook.
Different shape, but
to
same idea.
McDonald's.
Yeah,
I can't get to the login.
same company.
It basically acts like a router where you've got
Yeah.
the wide area network,
Yeah.
the local area
You
network,
can, I can
and you
connect. I
my
can say,
router-
block it right there.
One of the other PCs,
My-
I said,
my router
forget
actually
my
can do it.
address, and then
I can
go in
actually
and
block.
forget
I can
my
actually
password, and then
tell
when it
my
connects
router
again, it's new
to
and it puts up
the
sign
guest
in.
network.
Mhm.
Okay.
I can
The
tell it
last
to
time
shut it
I
off
went
at
and
a certain
searched the
time. I can
internet
tell it
for
to
I can't
cool.
log
limit
into
the bandwidth.
McDonald's,
Yeah,
and I
this- my
clicked
son
for an
loves
answer,
that.
and I
That,
got
This
the
that
will-
router
page.
is freaking awesome.
This will take a whole list of MAC addresses,
Yeah, mine will.
so that
And
the
that's-
authorized MAC addresses will
they're
just
trying to
bypass the
pop
whole
up a
guest
new
internet
page.
device.
Yeah,
I
this
think
route,
makes
the
sense.
router I
I
found
am
it
able to get in and
a
Panera.
3-store for
And
$5,
I get the
and when I
login.
plugged it in,
So it works
and
at
got it
Panera,
up,
but it doesn't
and I
work
went,
at
McDonald's.
holy
McDonald's. So
crap!
you
This
go to
had to.
McDonald's, you
I
connect
looked
to
it
the
up, and
Wi-Fi,
it's
and then
like
it tries
a
to-
$300
It
router,
tries to bring up the page when it does.
and
Yeah.
I got it for $5,
Like that's-
$4.
who
You
made that
don't
one?
see the page
A
at
neck
all.
cube.
The phone.
Every
works.
once in a while,
If
we run
I
into
have
stuff
to
like
do this
that.
on the phone.
Yeah, but
Forget
it does
McDonald's,
it
and
does
then
all
when
that
it comes to
stuff. It would
McDonald's,
let me.
has the login, or the
um,
login will pop up on the main screen.
Just
Just
sounds like a reason
it does
to not go to
segmentation so
McDonald's.
that
Why?
everybody that
That's-
connects
that's
is segmented
impossible.
so
Oh,
they can't
no.
see
Oh,
each
wait,
other.
so